Okay, hello, greetings and welcome. So today's topic is the law of resonance. Now, the law of resonance is based on the idea that two tuning forks on the same frequency are going to vibrate together. You hit this tuning fork and this is on the same frequency, it'll start vibrating from the energy of the tuning fork that's moving. Its energy will go back and then amplify the energy in this one. So there's a law of resonance that two tuning forks together will fuel each other. If you have three, you have the power amplifies. If you have four, the power amplifies off each other. So you end up with the power of 16. If you have 5 people, you have the power of 25. If you have 6, you have the power of 36, and so forth. So 10 people have the power of 100. Now this law of resonance is because we're living minds paying attention to energy and fueling each other. This gives groups of people huge amounts of power. There's vibrational scales in the law of resonance. From the physical body resonating, it's a two-way tuning fork. We're sending out information, receiving information. Astrally, emotionally, it's a two-way tuning fork, an antenna, sending out, receiving. Our thoughts, we're sending out thoughts mentally, receiving thoughts mentally. It's a two-way system. The system transmits and the system receives based on like frequency. So the law of resonance basically regulates our entire experience. Whatever you pay attention to, you're bringing your mind into resonance with it, you're bringing your feelings into resonance with it, and you're bringing your body into resonance with it. So you create your experience by the objects of what you pay attention to. This generates you as a person and generates how you experience this world mentally, astrally, and physically. So in Hermetics, obviously, we break down the training into mental training, refining the mental body, astral training, refining the feeling body, and physical training, refining the vitality of the body, the physical lifestyle, and so forth. So when we train each of these bodies, we bring the resonance of the mental, astral, physical into synchronicity to achieve success within each exercise, to achieve success within your life, and to manifest your goals, whatever they might be. If your goal is nirvana and spiritual ascension, then the Bodhisattva path, the Buddhist path, focuses on paying attention to the things that lead you to that place. When you pay attention to things that don't lead you to that place, the path deviates. Then you pay attention to things that do bring you to there, you come back onto the path. The amount of time that you spend paying attention to something gives it critical mass. Normally 100 hours of practicing something builds a critical mass, so you just simply put your mind onto that particular practice and it's moving in that direction. You've built an astral personality, a physiological behavior, and a mental state where you just tune in, boom, there's the energy. You're just able to do it. 100 hours is the usual rule. You pay attention to something 100 hours and you get very, very good at it. You've got a subconscious habit which is forming within 100 hours. It can be done quicker, but to get that critical mass, you need to compress that time into smaller span. So let's say a person does 2 hours a week over 1 year, they get to 100 hours. Or a person who does 100 hours in 1 week. Very, very different outcome. The outcome of the person who trains 16 hours a day and just back to back and they've got it, their experience will be profoundly different. The person who does it over 1 year will have time to integrate it into all these different facets of their life because they're paying attention to it on the sidelines and every other activity. So it'll start branching into their life in different ways. But the person who does 100 hours straight, that person is going to hit critical mass and have overwhelming spiritual experiences very, very quickly. Very powerful, very simple, and very profound. And guess what? Next week they can work on the next frequency. So inside of the vital energy, inside of time and space, we have a whole range of exercises. You get 100 hours of each week. You have 100 hours of training. You master awareness of the vital field very quickly. The next month, every week you're working on frequencies within the astral. maybe 100 hours in each element, astrally. And you're in the mental, and you're working on releasing space. And you have the frequencies of the mental body, which you're refining and demagnetizing the stickiness of the mental matrix, and you're releasing your mind. And you work another 100 hours each week for a month on Akasha, and then non-dual light. So after just a few months of 100 hours a week, you're achieving something that will take decades for a normal person to achieve in just a small amount of time. Because it's the amount of time that you're paying attention to the frequency, the tuning fork, and the critical mass you're building within it, and embedding that critical mass very deep in your psyche. You're taking on a new personality trait and embedding it on that tuning fork frequency. So my teacher referred to his classes as attunement classes, and he did so because at a base level of the physical, there's vital energy and tuning forks relating to normal Qigong types of exercises. And these has a vibrational scale of tuning forks inside of time and space. Then as we look at the astral body, they start releasing of time. There's a range of tuning forks in the elements and so forth that are released of time to move through the astral planes. And then there's a range of tuning forks in the mental body and the spirit that are not subject to space. And these tuning forks have a vibrational scale. Then within Akasha, there's the tuning forks that connect to the qualities of infinity and that underlie all of the universe, underlie all that we know about form. And this Akashic substance that allows form to exist is also subject to a vibrational scale. This emptiness has degrees of emptiness. It has degrees of acuity and qualities of stillness, qualities of equanimity. And every meditation object that you train accumulates an Akashic substance under your mind, which is a reflection of the meditation object. So when your meditation objects are very high frequency sacred meditation objects, you develop a type of infinite Akasha that has no limitations. But if you focus on meditation objects that are very mundane, you'll have a limited Akasha which will accumulate underneath your mind as you use that as a meditation object. So choose your meditation objects well, because the way that it affects your mental, astral, physical growth changes. And then within the Akasha, you look at your mind. You sit in the stillness, you look at your mind as light. And that light has a vibrational scale of density of light in its non-dual nature, moving all the way up to pure non-dual complete release, which is nirvana. So there's stages of this non-duality that exist before a person achieves nirvana. Okay, so I had a class one day in the late 80s with my teacher. We were moving up the vibrational scale, and we'd been doing about a year on non-dual light realms. And so he walked in and said, today we're going to go to nirvana. And everyone's sort of like, oh, nirvana. Some of us were, oh, cool. Others were, what's that? Because he didn't really talk that much about Buddhism. He said Buddhism is the last door, and it specializes in a non-self ideal to fully release the mind and touch nirvana. And it's the only teaching available on this planet that focuses and specializes in that particular stage. But the system in and of itself is not really suitable for beginners because it's only focusing on the last door. It doesn't have the whole spectrum that's required for a beginner to the most advanced. And it was very, very interesting. He filled the room with Akasha, dissolved our mental matrices, released the minds of everyone, went through different phases of light, and then everyone arrived within Akasha. Within the nirvana. And this particular level, my knees, my elbows, my hands, and my third eye were stuck to the floor. And I had a very profound knowing of exactly what I had to do to return. The humility was overwhelming. The devotion to my spiritual practice was overwhelming. The deep sense of reverence and sacredness generating a profound type of stillness I'd never experienced before was there and the path was laid in front of me. Admittedly, I've never been able to walk through that door again. It was only through his support in which I was able to taste the flavor of nirvana, but it's never left me. That feeling of, this is what I have to do, is continually there. The law of resonance is basically, you need to move up this vibrational scale to re-access that. And many times I've gotten to the door, but there's still this static of self that's constantly in the background, that there's more to let go of to walk through that door. There's a beautiful blue being that's adorned in gold jewelry that stands at the door, a type of doorkeeper or gatekeeper of nirvana. And this being has arisen out of the physics more so than an actual entity. It's a consciousness that has arisen, that when you match the state of access, the door opens. When you don't match it, it doesn't open. And because the universe is mind, this personality has arisen at the door to nirvana. So the vibrational scale and awareness of the law of resonance is what allows you to move up the vibrational scale to attain nirvana. It's a scale. When we get to Akasha and non-dual light, the scale doesn't make any sense anymore. Your intuitive intellect can't digest it anymore in a physical body. But when you're in the Akasha, it makes perfect sense. When you're in the light realms, it makes perfect sense. The intuitive guidance system is there guiding you. But when you try to journal it afterwards, it's kind of like, well, I'll just leave that where it is, because it doesn't fit into the time and space and construct of our normal consciousness and brain. It doesn't slot in. It's something outside of that. So when you're working up and down this vibrational scale and developing an insight and understanding into what's the next level, what's the next thing that you need to work on, by having the vibrational scale up to Akasha in place, time and space, release time, release space, enter into the infinity of the Akasha. That makes sense within each level. When it's digestible with the intellect. Your intuitive intellect can manage to develop the process. When you get into Akasha and you're on the other side of the coin, then the Akashic will to maintain Akasha allows the insight to arise, the identity, I am Akasha, to arise, the omnipresence of Akasha underlying all things to arise. And from there you start getting, okay, this is how the path works. And there is a type of resonant principle to it, but it's not something that can be intellectualized. So as you develop your experiences and you fill your journal out each day with your practices, and you accumulate different types of stillness as a byproduct of each practice, and you use that stillness as a door to go into each of these tuning forks and move out of these tuning forks so that you can take full ownership of them, you're accumulating a door to Akasha by doing this. And each time you enter through the stillness into a tuning fork and you touch it, and then you leave through the stillness and back into normal form, that accumulated library of stillness makes that door bigger and bigger to Akasha to give you access to the non-dual light realms. So it's an essential part of the Hermetic teachings. Know very clearly how to develop the law of resonance, what is the vibrational scale, and clearly define it. Thank you for your time, and see you on the next video.